Hey, Larry Elder here. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt and KHNC.
Good morning, guys. So I would like to make today's episode all about the walk away movement and why I left the left. For those who perhaps have never heard my story, I never really thought about politics growing up. I was like a regular kid. I didn't really focus on what was going on in government. I was far more concerned with what was going on with my parents, with what was going on with my friends, with the latest video game, whatever it was. I had a normal childhood, right? I know that apparently now normal is a bad word because it makes some people feel excluded. But I didn't really get into politics until later in high school. And even then, it was just trendy to have political opinions, right? And I got all of my political opinions from my favorite rock bands, punk bands, metal bands, Rage Against the Machine, System of a Down. This was the mindset. And of course, the notion was always exactly the same. The left cares about poor people, and the right does not. The right is a bunch of they care about the rich. They're warmongers. They want to militarize everything. They want purity. So they look down on anyone who's different, anyone who's rebellious. They're racist. They're bigoted. They're homophobic. All of these things. And they're the people who believe in the religious dogmas. And of course, I just adopted those perceptions through osmosis without ever really thinking about it. I voted for Obama his first term because he was black, and I thought that was what mattered. And after he was president, I'd hear some of his speeches, and he sounded smart and articulate, and he said things that sounded nice. I remember he said something along the lines of, this country is home to Muslims too, and they're just as American as everyone else, and they're welcome here. And I thought, wow, that sounds really nice, and that's how I feel. And still, that is how I feel. I believed in the travel ban because it's not a Muslim ban. It was a ban on countries with significantly high rates of terrorism and anti-American sentiment. And I guess that kind of just makes sense, right? There's a lot of Muslim countries like Malaysia that aren't on the list because they don't have the same problem with terrorism and suicide bombers and all of that. But anyways, I didn't really get into politics until like 2016, and that's when I discovered Bernie Sanders on social media. And I got all of my political information, all my political news from Now This and Huffington Post and Bernie Sanders himself and Occupy Democrats, the 99%, like all of these far left social media savvy youth outreach agencies. And I bought right into it. And yes, so some of it seemed kind of legitimate, when they were talking about the monetary system and central banking and some of the nefarious things going on in that realm. But I really didn't know anything about policy or its ramifications. All I really knew was what I had kind of just absorbed. So I went around and I started touting all of the leftist dogmas, right? The systemic racism and the anti-Americanism and the anti-white stuff that they do. They're really obsessed with anti-white. Um, and I just, if you don't know anything about world history and what you know is from left-wing outlets who say, oh, slavery and everything that was white people and it's European colonialism and this, that, and the other. I mean, it's really easy to buy into that, and you kind of forget that actually that's happened with every world power. That's not something that's exclusive to European history or American history. And what sets European history and American history apart is that they pioneered the abolition of slavery. Yeah, Europe did colonialize the world, and there was some tyranny that went along with that, and there have been lasting effects of that. But I don't think that that's the defining feature. They also brought technology. They also brought governing structures that have overwhelmingly been good for the world. The world is being lifted out of poverty at a rate that even the most optimistic economists could never have anticipated or hoped for. So, that's a thing. But I was totally bought into it, right? I actually was pretty sympathetic to movements like Antifa. Now, if you want to hear more about Antifa, you can actually go to Spotify and look at the podcast, or go to the KHNC website and look at the podcast page and check out the episode that my co-patriot Cole did yesterday on Antifa. We've done deep dive research into Antifa, and we've actually done on the ground investigations, filming of Antifa. We were there on the ground at the dueling rallies in Denver where there was the so-called Patriot rally, and then there was the so-called canned food drive that Antifa was hosting, where Lee Keltner got shot, and we were right there. I saw it. So, I've been personally doxxed by Antifa. I've been personally surrounded and harassed physically by these people. So check out Cole's episode from yesterday if you want to learn more about that. This is the Bucky Dillon Show. This is my walkaway story. I'll tell you more after the break. Hang on.
If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animated contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsel nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains be set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you were ever our countrymen. Samuel Adams.
This is Sam Shook, Navy vet and Medicare specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks, KHNC listeners.
Have you always wanted to be on the radio? Do you have strong opinions or ideas that you think should be heard? Why not host your own radio show right here on the Roar of the Rockies? You'll be on the same station as Brian Kilmeade, Michael Savage, and Alex Jones. You can brand yourself as an expert in your industry and grow your business. Imagine telling your potential clients you have your own radio show. That gives you instant credibility. For more information, call us at 970-587-5003.
1360khnc.com has CBD products. Click on the shop button and get yours today.
Just go to 1360khnc.com/shop. The CBD on our website is 99% pure, all natural, no pesticides, non-GMO, is grown organically right here in Colorado, and is 100% THC free. Oh, and did you know ours is the lowest price CBD anywhere in Northern Colorado? For all your CBD needs, just log on to 1360khnc.com/shop.
So I left the left when I started getting into a big fight with my grandfather. He was a Trump supporter, and I was a self-proclaimed socialist revolutionary activist. And we were over at my grandparents' house, and I told him this. I was like, I'm a socialism. I believe in socialism, and it's the moral thing to do. And he tried to point out to me, you don't know anything about socialism, and socialism is just the first step to communism, and communism has killed hundreds of thousands of people and failed everywhere it's been tried. And I, of course, made the case, socialism's never really been tried, right? Which is a horrific thing to say, because what that really means is that if you were the dictator in charge, you would have ushered in this the Marxist utopia, which is so arrogant and so blind. It is one of the most evil things you could say. So caller, I think I'm getting an echo. I think I lost my caller. Anyways, I got in a big argument with caller. You're on the air. I got in a big argument. Hello.
Yeah, Bucky. My name's Brian, and I like KHNC. I used to know a little bit about Falun Gong. I think that part of what the communist Chinese didn't like about them was that they were also doing kind of a Tai Chi martial art kind of thing. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
No, I will definitely look into it and explore that, but that's not something I can really dive too much on the second hour, because this is live streamed.
Also, I wanted to say that let's see, I think it was before
we're getting a bad
we went
echo, by the way.
To Iraq, there was a peace rally outside of Peterson Air Force Base, and I went down on a bus from Boulder, and at the end of the whole thing, you could see Antifa come out and basically start a little mini riot with the basic military police there.
Yeah, we do have Antifa forces right here in northern Colorado, and you can find them if you just get on the social media pages and look for them. They have literally names like Antifa Colorado Springs with leadership, and they put on canned soup drives where the picture on the poster is a can of soup being thrown through the air with a trail of rainbows and everything. I'm gonna have to let you go. We're getting a bad echo, but thank you for calling. What's your name?
Brian.
Brian.
Good talking to you.
Great to meet you, man. Bye-bye. So anyways, I got in this argument with my grandfather about the merits of socialism, and he told me he was a Trump supporter, and that, you know, he saw Trump as a bulwark against the rise of this neo-Marxism. And I, of course, translated that into racist, bigot, and stormed out. And it took me, I mean, I remember feeling ugly. I remember feeling angry, hateful, and really, I remember feeling so angry that I just felt disgusted by myself. And I really started to question what was going on in my own head. And I set myself out to prove my grandfather wrong. So I was going to study conservatism, and I was going to learn it better than him. And then I was going to use that knowledge to Ben Shapiro style own my grandfather. Lasers were going to shoot out of my eyes and he was going to burn into a crisp in front of me and I would be triumphant. And that was going to be that. Well, as I listened, I really started to absorb and understand where the right was coming from and where the flaws in my own thinking was, which was mainly just rooted in ignorance, excuse me, mainly rooted in ignorance. I just simply did not have historical context. I did not have life experience, and I didn't have, I guess, just basic common sense. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Herb.
Hey,
Good
hello,
morning, bro.
So I'm just listening to what you were saying about you and your grandfather. Were you in your school? Was politics taught at all? Anything about the history of the country and the political parties or anything like that?
Well, I went to an alternative school that was owned by that the principal was probably one of the most radical left wing, everything to the right of Hillary Clinton is white supremacy kind of individuals. And I didn't know this at the time, but that was infused in the entire curriculum of the school. And that school was geared towards kind of alternative learning. It was called Pioneer, and then its name was changed to Polaris. But that school was really geared towards this really hippie style of learning, very lenient with grades, very lenient on testing, and emphasizing on diversity and inclusion and peace and environmentalism and all this, and which sounds great. Here's the thing about the left's platform. It's all about sounding nice. But, sometimes policies that are meant to be based in compassion don't work, but they can't admit that they don't work. So they just accuse anyone who goes against it of being anti-compassionate. Right. And this is kind of the trick they played. This is why terms like Black Lives Matter are so semantically overloaded. When you ask your neighbor with the Black Lives Matter sign in their yard, they say, well, I just don't think it's right that, minorities are oppressed and that, cops are killing thousands of Black unarmed, innocent people every year and just terrorizing the community. And, I just think that Black Lives Matter. And, they're getting their statistics, their numbers wrong, right? Because the news has a political agenda that they're pushing, and they only show the things that push that agenda. But also, the term is semantically overloaded because if you look at the organization itself, it's a neo-Marxist organization. The co-founder of Black Lives Matter openly says that she's a trained Marxist and that they're trying to foster anti-capitalist, anti-American revolution, and they want to disrupt, neuter, destroy the nuclear family and peddle all of these redistribution schemes.
One of the interesting things about Black Lives Matter is the fact that some of the what you just stated, I don't think you can find that online anymore. But if you go back to the welfare system, Black Lives Matter represents all of the things that has, to me, been a part of the destruction of the Black family in this country. And to break down the family unit is to put us where we're at today. The understanding now that the education system that you came through pretty much prepared you mentally for being a Democrat, a liberal, or something other than giving you both sides of the story and allowing you to actually think your way through it. I'm not sure that should be called education, and I'm not trying to insult you. That's more along the lines of indoctrination. You've removed anything that would be opposition to a mindset that you're trying to impose on a young mind. therefore not giving that mind the opportunity to sit down and think about this and make their own decisions.
Right. And it's all about, see, compassion is a kind of a bad governing policy, because in order to be compassionate towards someone, you kind of have to villainize someone else, because you're not compassionate towards people who are in their own in a situation because of their own decisions. You're compassionate about people who are powerless. You're compassionate towards people who are victimized. And so in order to have a policy based on compassionate, there's always a second side to it, right? It's kind of like the mama bear thing. If your cub is just your precious baby, innocent cub that is suffering needlessly, then everything around it that makes its life difficult is the venomous snake. And that's why they see anyone who disagrees with their agenda as venomous snakes, and they treat them like such. And it's really unfortunate that we can't have conversations about efficiency when the narrative is oppressor versus oppressed. What is
So
the
would you
workers?
say,
Go ahead.
go ahead, please. No, please. Go
What
ahead.
is the worker's best protection from exploitation by an employer? Well, Detroit tried unionizing, and that's why Detroit went from Motor City, most happening city in the United States, top of the world, to where it is today, where they have so many abandoned buildings and so many people have fled the city that they physically do not have the tax revenue to repair or tear down all of the abandoned buildings, right? And a huge part of that was unionization. How did that work? Well, essentially, unions came in, they said, we're going to protect the worker. How do they protect the worker? But number one, you can't protect the wages of workers while simultaneously creating more jobs in that industry. You can only protect those wages by putting up barriers to entry, by making it more difficult to hire others in that industry, and thus they don't have to compete for their wages. Or by passing government regulations. Same thing, right? The problem is the unions became so powerful, and they get all of their the union's number one thing is to give benefits to the worker at the expense of the company's profits. That's the whole thing. The problem is, where do people want to invest their money, and where do people want to develop an industry? Do they want to do it somewhere in Detroit where the unions have become so strong that there's hardly any profit? You don't want to invest in a business that has hardly any profit because it's all being doled out, right? And the profits can't be reinvested into growing and developing new products. That's why all the automotive industries went to other countries: Mexico, Japan, China, all these other places. And Motor City was totally hollowed out. And it was largely because of, yes, government corruption, government mismanagement, but it was also too much emphasis on workers' protections, regardless of the fact that automotive workers in Detroit, by global standards, were the 1%. In the 40s, 50s, automotive workers in Detroit were at the top of the world. People from all around the United States, the most economically prosperous country at the time, wanted to go to Detroit to work in these industries. But, of course, the workers' movements, so-called, became so powerful, they actually destroyed the job opportunities there. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, everyone. This is Leah. Join me Monday through Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. for Leah Live, right here on 1360 KHNC. I'll look forward to it.
Did the insurance company divorce your mountain house? Then call Affordable Tree Service North at 970-568-6898. We have over 50 years combined experience in fire mitigation. Let us climb, cut, trim, haul your worries away. We know brokers who specialize in mountain property, and we don't hire no snowflakes. Oh, God, go ahead, Mickey. Hey, you're not in this commercial. Again, call Affordable Tree Service at 970-568-6898. That's 568-6898.
Do you ever wake up and feel like there should be someone to run your errands? We want to get things done, but just don't have enough time. Many of us hire concierge services like dog walkers or food and grocery delivery. Why should your insurance needs be any different? At Badger Insurance Advisors, we act as your concierge for all things insurance, pairing quotes and prices, and recommending the best insurance for your needs. Call or text us today at 303-359-1799 or check us out at badgerinsuranceadvisors.com.
Hi, Brian Kilmeade here. Thanks so much for listening to me every weekday from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. right here on KHNC, the roar of the Rockies. Hey, do you own a business in northern Colorado or surrounding areas? Are you looking to reach a conservative, loyal audience which could grow your business? Well, take my advice and contact my friends at KHNC. KHNC has a rapidly growing conservative family-based audience, and you can speak directly to them. Now, if you're looking for the type of customers or clients that believe in the principles that our great country was founded upon, just contact my friends at KHNC, the Roar of the Rockies, and learn how you can be heard right on the air. Just call 970-587-5000. On the air at 1360khnc.com. That's 970-587-5003, or email on the air at 1360khnc.com. Take it from me, Brian Kilmeade. You can showcase your business to the folks that are helping to take our country back.
Does this corrupt monetary system give you a whack to the head or a poke in the eye? Call Patriot Trading Group at 800-951-0592. That's 800-951-0592. Don't be a stooge. Buy gold and silver today.
This is Rick Rodriguez. Christ said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Join me every Sunday, 9 to 11 a.m. for the Olive Tree and Lampstand Ministry Radio Church on the new 1360 KHNC.
欢迎收听 KHNC 广播电台 Bucky Dillon 早安秀，大家的早安广播，谢谢。
But so many of the left's policies actually restrict the ability of businesses to grow. These regulations often translate into barriers to entry that make it easier for large corporations to dominate an industry and monopolize an industry in certain towns and cities all across the country, which doesn't help the workers. The workers' best protection is other job opportunities, because when employers have to compete for the labor of workers, they have to offer more benefits, they have to offer better wages. But when it's the other way around, when a company has a monopsony in employment, there's only one place a worker can go to work. Well, they don't have very much leverage to negotiate better wages or benefits.
Many times you would think that the workers being unionized, they would come to the realization that united we stand, divided we fall. But yet that does not happen. It's the way that the union mentality is put forward is, I'm protecting your job, therefore I'm protecting you. You need to pay me, and everything is going to be okay. And I think the absence of critical thinking it ends up trapping people. And I was forced to be a part of a union once. And when I read the contract, I knew right away that I'm handing my money over to someone who really does not have my best interest in mind. But in order to advance myself in my career, I had to do it. So I was a conscientious objector, if you will, who was a part of the union. The union stewards didn't really like me because I never went to them when I had a problem. I went directly to management. And I knew that I could, no one can negotiate for you as an individual better than you as an individual. Nobody has that same passion. You cannot pay someone to have passion for you and what you believe in. There are some basics that, yeah, the unions can get put in place. And I will say that I do believe once upon a time the union had its place. It had an impact on many of the things that employees enjoy today. But to have to pay somebody to do that, I don't think is required anymore. I think that the critical thinking, and if you've got a group of employees that a company knows will think their way through a problem, you're more inclined as a business owner to have a little more respect for your employees. And employees who are treated well, employees who are respected, they will, in fact, do a better job. You, the business owner, will reap the benefits of that. I don't think that that union mentality is needed anymore. And the evidence that it is not needed, as you have stated, is right there in Detroit, Michigan.
So, but the union conversation, that's just one small piece of it. What I really realized about the right is that they understood the economy. They understood that you need operational control of your borders in order to have a country. They understood that you need a strong military. They understood the founding and how precious some of the ideas laid forth in the founding and revolutionary they were in the context of world history. They just suck at messaging, particularly to young people. And of course, there's the saying, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative after you have children, you don't have a brain. And I think part of that is true. And, you know, I agree with you that there is a legitimate role for some private sector unions. And there is a legitimate role for left-wing thinking in the country. I don't want to live in a right-wing country. I don't like right-wing echo chambers. I don't like hardcore right-wing extremism, right? I feel like there's a bunch of ignorant LARPers on that side, just as much as there are on the Antifa side. What I learned when I filmed these dueling so-called patriot rallies, Antifa rallies, BLM rallies, is that there are the same wackos on both sides. They're the same people who are out there pretending to be militant, but are really just ignorant jerks, kind of making total asses of themselves. So, you know, it's not that I want to live in a right-wing country, but I see the direction that the left is going right now, and where their priorities are, and their priorities aren't preserving freedom. Their priorities aren't, it doesn't seem to me that the consequences of the policies that they push, claiming to be on the side of the downtrodden and the poor, actually help the downtrodden and the poor. It seems like they've gone so far that it's all about government dependency. There's no limiting principle to the left. That's why every election cycle, they go further and further to the left. The conservatives have that. They point to the Constitution. They say, that's it. That's the legitimate role of government. That's the society that I want to live in. The government is there to, you know, erect a military to defend us from foreign aggression and otherwise to defend our freedoms and stay out of the way. Like a legitimate conservative government It actually isn't that scary. It just means you're left to your own devices for better or worse. And you're allowed to speak, you're allowed to think, you're allowed to make mistakes, and you're also allowed to be successful. Where the left, they don't really have a limiting principle. Their entire governing philosophy is utilizing government power to solve injustices. But the only way for the government to solve injustices is to accumulate power. The government only fixes problems one of two ways. They throw money at it that doesn't belong to them. It's not their money. They either print it or they tax it, both of which cost you. Or they throw bullets at it. That's all they do.
Would you say, or would you agree with, a part of the problem is the conservatives or the Republican Party, conservative thinking people have been complacent for a long time. We've sat back and watched these things happen. You put up a little bit of resistance. As you just stated, you throw the Constitution out there. Here's what we're supposed to do. But who's actually there fighting? And when I sit down and I take a look at the politicians on both sides of the aisle, I pretty much see the same people. There's not much difference.
It seems to me
it's almost like a weak defense.
Right. It seems to me and a lot of people in this country that when Republicans are in power, the economy may get better, but wealth inequality grows, and the extremely rich get more power. When the right's in power, we become more militarized, and when the left's in power, we become more dependent on government.
It is not because men have made laws that life, liberty, and property exist. On the contrary, it is because life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that men made laws in the first place. What then is law? It is the collective organization of the individual right to lawful defense and punishing injustice. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and I would like to encourage everyone to make sure they are prepared financially as the Federal Reserve continues to destroy the value of the dollar. Since the closing of the gold window in 1971, the Federal Reserve has led the way in the explosion of debt and the devaluing of your money. They openly say that they need 2% inflation, which simply means they hope to devalue your money, and they want to do this every single year, year after year. I know it's hard to understand, but the Federal Reserve believes in prosperity through debt and growth via the devaluation of your future. To learn more about how to protect yourself, visit us at allamericangold.com or call us at 800-951-0592 and protect yourself against the devaluing of your money.
Hey, KHNC listeners, Bucky Dillon here. By the way, I just want to let you know, if you're interested in buying or selling real estate, I highly recommend you contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com. He's been doing real estate here since like 2005. And you don't just get him, you get the entire Sears Real Estate team, one of the best in the business, looking out for you on one of the most crucial purchases of your life. Don't mess it up. Contact my friend Jerry at SearsRealEstate.com.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
It still amuses me that Larry Elder gave me a shout out and has knows my name, so that makes me feel pretty good. Anyways, one of the things I realized, and this was something that I had fallen into, is when I was on the left, I was far more aggressive because so much of my worldview was prosecuting injustice. And I was labeling regular people as immoral people, including my own family. So I was an angry person. I part of what brought me to conservatism was a commitment to punish people. That was one of my driving motivators when I was on the left, was to punish people. I had made up in my own mind that people who disagreed with me weren't just wrong, they were bad people. And I needed to get these bad people reformed or punished. And I cannot wait for the day when in this country it is seen just as obscene to falsely accuse someone of being racist as it is to actually be racist. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're essentially the same thing. Being a racist and going around falsely accusing people of racism is just as ugly, in my opinion. You're impugning these terrible motivations, these terrible characteristics to people wrongly. The difference is I think the false accusations of racism are far more prevalent. You hear it literally every single day. There's a news story coming out about somebody being smeared as a racist, and nobody is off limits. Nobody's off limits. Not Candace Owens, not the Queen of England. Nobody is off limits from being tarnished as a bigot, right? And it is so damaging to our country. And it doesn't surprise me at all that when the left goes around accusing everyone of being bigoted, vicious racists, that people turn around and say, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to elect the giant orange pulsating middle finger.
You know, I believe it or not, and you know who I am. I myself have been labeled a racist in the past against people of color, and I am a person of color because based on things that I was taught by my parents and the education system, holding myself accountable for my actions is how I've lived my life. And I think personal responsibility, that should never be considered a racist anything. That should just be a normal part of the humans. To me, the person who first puts out the word "you're racist" or they begin the name calling, they have already lost the argument. It's just sometimes the person who is arguing with them doesn't realize that. They have put themselves in an indefensible position. And racism is just a label that is, gosh, it's tossed around so much right now. And everything that is of an opposition thought is considered a racist thought. How in the heck is it that everything can be racist when Black people only make up maybe 15% of the population? It is used as a point to argue, but the citizens do not take enough time to do any critical thinking. And if you sat down and thought your way through all of this and looked at the labels that are tossed around and placed on everyone, racism is used as a muzzle. They want you to shut your mouth and let's just label this person a racist. And that way everyone will be alarmed at what this person is saying, and it pretty much muzzles that person's thought process. Therefore, they can't have any type of a positive impact. And I think a lot of times the conservative thinking people sit back and keep their mouths closed for far too long. The argument gets too far down the street, and now when it's time, you think it's time to speak up, you can be labeled because you didn't speak up sooner. Some arguments need to be nipped in the bud the minute the person starts putting out bad ideas, bad thoughts, and non-factual information. But that's when I sit back and I look at the people who label themselves as conservatives, who label themselves as liberal, and I sit and watch how they argue, The liberals are the ones who'll stand up, scream, and shout and throw any and everything at the fight. Conservatives sit back and, well, let's do this in a more constructive manner. No, you're in battle. This is not time for constructive manner. This is about time for you to figure out how to shut that other person down as well, but not the same way. Shut them down with facts. But I see the conservative thinking people, they don't tend to stand and fight when it's time to fight. They tend to sit back and wait, and you wait too long.
Right. And I will say that I don't like being called a Republican. Our Republican candidates are terrible. Mitch McConnell is terrible, in my opinion. So many of our Republican politicians are just the same as any other politicians. And I think we should try to limit their power because they're totally incompetent and they have their own incentives and motivations that don't necessarily align with actually doing a good job. That's why we can't even have a conversation about reforming Social Security. Republicans won't touch it either. We always complain about the debt. Well, the drivers of the debt is largely entitlement spending. And, you know, if you try to have a conversation about it, well, apparently you want to kill grandma. You don't care about people. You're unfeeling. And so they don't want to touch it. And that's an American people thing just as much. But it just seems to me that, that they haven't been fighters. And that's why people kind of liked Trump, because Trump would actually fight back. He wouldn't cower.
What's up, KHNC Patriots? Bucky Dillon here. If you're looking for a simple and free way to support the station, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/1360KHNC. It really does help us reach a broader and a younger audience, help us take our country back. Give it a like, give it a follow, give it a share, invite your friends. You can watch the live streams, you can read the blog, you can share the memes, and you can join the conversation. You can join the fight, facebook.com/1360KHNC.
Hi, this is Mike Morris, owner of Warriors Revolution Tactical in Longmont. At Warriors Revolution, we have the largest selection of tactical gear and ammo in northern Colorado. But what many people may not know is that we now sell firearms. And even despite the recent run on firearms and ammunition, we have plenty of product in the store, including ARs, AKs, Glocks, SIGs, HK, and more. And don't forget all the bulk ammunition at the best prices in town. Need to do a private firearms transfer? We can do that too. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and our team is made up of veterans and security experts, not a bunch of salesmen. Our team is trained and fought with much of the actual equipment we sell. And one thing you should know is that we support the foundations and principles this great country was founded upon. So if you need tactical gear, ammo, firearms, AR parts or upgrades, and even survival accessories, stop by and visit us on Ken Pratt Boulevard and Bowen Street in Longmont, or visit warriorsrevolution.com. That's warriorsrevolution.com.
Chinese state-run media are celebrating the apparent success of Joe Biden and the mainstream news outlets, which act as nothing more than the communications branch of the Democrat Party. Among the many things we are doing to become more engaged in the culture, 1360khnc.com now has a blog page for the sharing of hard-hitting conservative content. Help us break the left's domination of media by becoming a content contributor. Reach out to contact at 1360khnc.com to learn more.
All of the music for the Bucky Dillon Morning Show was provided by my band, Beer for Bears. Find us on social media by looking for Beer for Bears.
So this Friday, you can come down to the station. Hosts of the open forum are going to be giving a presentation. That's Rick Rodriguez and Steve Stars. Very fascinating guys who have done a ton of research into topics that the vast majority of Americans, and I would say humans in general, don't know anything about. They've done a vast amount of research into really wild, entertaining topics. So come check them out this Friday night from 5 to 9. It will be catered by Subway. So if you're in Johnstown, check out Subway. Guys, we are also inviting local business owners to come do a pre-recorded single segment just to help out and promote Johnstown businesses. So if you are a business owner in Johnstown and you would like to come down to the station and hear about what we could do for you and possibly record a little segment, check it out. We're offering a special advertising deal for Johnstown businesses only, a special rate that you cannot get anywhere else, the best rates in Colorado. Guys, if you want to support the station, 1360khnc.com/shop. Get your CBD products. We'll also be selling them at this Friday night event. Great for your health. I rely on them. It makes this possible because I do so much. I would be totally burnt out if I didn't have something to help supplement the relaxation and recentering of my mind and spirit, and CBD products do a tremendous job of helping me in that endeavor. Herb, thank you for hanging out to me today, man.
Oh, thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you co-hosting the show with me.
Well, I have to give it to you. You always have some interesting topics, and it stirs the brain early in the morning.
I'm so thankful. Guys, if you want to support the station, check out Jerry Axum at Sears Real Estate. Investing in real estate, particularly in Colorado, is a great way to begin becoming financially independent. Just to put it in perspective, I started the process of buying my first home earlier this summer, and my house hasn't even finished construction yet, and it's already gone up $10,000 in value. It looks as though by the time I move my stuff in, it will have accumulated $15,000 in value before I've even moved in. I could move out of my house 4 months after moving in and probably make 20 grand profit on the whole ordeal. So contact my friend Jerry Axum at Sears Real Estate. His email is jerry@searsrealestate.com. That's jerry@searsrealestate.com. Or you could go to the Sears Real Estate website and get a hold of him. Guys, this is the Bucky Dillon Morning Show, a collaborative between myself and the free-thinking, freedom-loving, free speech advocating patriot community right here in Northern Colorado. We're tuning in worldwide on the website 1360khnc.com. Check out the live stream, youtube.com/Liberty Revolt. Check out our content, www.libertyrevoltmedia.com, to learn more about me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Final day before the snowstorm, the apocalyptic Arctic wave. You guys are listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. Have a wonderful day. Herb, thanks for joining. I hope to see you Friday. Can I?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'll see you then, man.
Hey,